Hi there. I just want to do a talk, and this talk is about, I want to talk about distractions and why it's important to be rid of these distractions that fill our minds and is the matrix. The matrix is the endless distractions that is. The matrix is real. But what the matrix is, like in the film, all these numbers, computer numbers and stuff, that's kind of symbolic of what it is. It's filled. It's basically, the matrix is created from a distorted consciousness. That is all our feelings and emotions mixed together, and it creates this simulation reality. All the reality is a simulation, but the matrix version is creating this reality of endless distractions, and it keeps us from our divinity. I have read one children's book in my life. I've also listened to 2 audiobooks. One was called, I'll be back in a sec. Sorry about that. Yeah. Yes, I was talking about these endless. I was just saying to my cat there, she wanted in. But yeah, I was talking about these distractions, and yeah, it stops people from accessing their divinity, as I was saying. And like I was saying about books as well, that, you know, I read one children's book as a kid and 2 audiobooks. One was Book of Genesis, by the Bible. The other one was 1984 by George Orwell. But I've never been into books or even films for that matter. I'll rarely watch a film, right? And usually it's classic films or someone that I know, because I know the system is always creating movies to try and program us, to get us to accept what they're going to bring forward in the future. That's what they always do. And how do they do it? Well, it's a long story. Basically, it starts from a long way back. You know, you program one generation, they program the next generation, and it's an endless thing of programming. And so when you're young, with that programming, you will then create the kind of art that the system wants, and that's how Hollywood is controlled, and films in general, from the top. But yeah, these distractions is, I think, part of the spiritual awakening that I had under 10 years ago. I think in general, I wasn't really a distracted person. I don't think that, I think compared to a lot of people are distracted by so much stuff that they create themselves. It could be a mortgage, it could be a loan, it could be lovers, and it's all this endless stuff, and they're all constantly stressed out. And I'm not surprised that they get cancer when they're older, because everything's energy, isn't it? There was even a doctor that healed someone of cancer a few years ago, and he said that cancer is a feeling of hopelessness for the future, and it manifests itself in the body. But especially even now, I mean, but I think that's how the awakening was easy, because I didn't have other beliefs. I didn't have all other beliefs to conflict the awakening. And even ever since the awakening, that's even been putting me more on this Zen simplicity path. And I don't get loans. I don't pay things up. I make sure that I don't have any problems in my life, so that I can just relax and pretty much meditate all the time and all day. That's what I do. And I do that especially because obviously when you have a spiritual awakening, you're on this awakening path, this process, you've got to steer your life so that you're not going to be stressed out, right? So you need to make sure that you're, because you're basically, it's like a sport, you know, it is like a sport. I treat it like a sport. You know, in a sport, you're dedicated, practicing every day, and I was born for this path. And so every day I'm practicing. Every day I'm meditating. Every day I'm going within. And this is how an ascended master becomes an ascended master compared to someone that doesn't. The person that doesn't, like, I've had people contact me on the internet. They've got all the knowledge, they've read all the books, but they're not happy. Why is that? Because they haven't had the spiritual awakening. And why haven't they had the spiritual awakening? Because they spend too much time reading what other people have said and not enough time going within. Right? Not enough time going within. In fact, they spend little or no time going within. And so they become these judgmental people that just judge you and want to, because their belief of their books isn't that strong, people try to impose things upon you when they're not sure about it themselves. If they think that you're living a life that is better than theirs, they will try to impose their belief onto you. That's what people try and do. Especially people, like I say, people that aren't confident in their belief. Religious people do this because they're not sure if it's true. Right? I don't try and impose my path on anyone. I say believe what you like, you know, believe what you want. I'm sharing it in case there's someone that wants to listen. And I think it's amazing, but that doesn't mean I have any right to try and impose it and say, oh, this is the only way. There are infinite ways to do things. Like yesterday, I had this guy in a group saying, oh, you need to read books. And I says, well, that's the way for you. I've got a different way. And that's what we've got to do, really. We've got to start opening up and being open to different ways of doing things. Just because someone doesn't conform to your belief system doesn't mean that they are wrong. It just means that they're on a different journey to you. Right? And I said to the gentleman, I says, it's not for me. And he kept on pushing it. And people like that, you've just got to, well, I think my way of dealing with it is people like that, I tend to just not be associating with them anymore, because I'm just not interested in that, right? What I think of people like that is that what they believe in isn't very strong. That's what I think. That's why I get, like I said a moment ago, you get religious people that are like this, and like this talk is about, is they've got these distractions, and that's why the people in the spiritual community that are reading the books and the courses, doing the courses, haven't had the spiritual awakenings and don't get them. And yet someone that has never read a book in their life gets a spiritual awakening, and never done a course in their life gets a spiritual awakening. I didn't do nothing to get the spiritual awakening. Nothing. Didn't read any books, didn't do any courses, didn't do any yoga, didn't do nothing. Right? It came from nothing. Nothingness. And that's where everything comes from, isn't it? Everything has to come from nothing at some stage. But back to my point, and this is what it really is to go within. Ask any Buddhist that you have to get rid of the distractions. This is why in spiritual awakening I started meditating all the time, and I became meditation. I'm always in meditation, some form of meditation, always. Even when I wake up in the morning, as soon as I awaken, I'm in the morning, I'm in meditation. Because it's so important to still the mind of and free the mind of distractions, because these distractions are there on purpose by the system. It's called counterintelligence. Counterintelligence is the game the system plays to block our chakras. It's a mind control game. And I had an army officer contact me on the internet maybe last year, and she says what I was saying about counterintelligence was bang on, and she was doing that in the army. And this is how they control people. Counterintelligence is to do with trauma-based mind control, and it blocks our energies, our chakras. Once you block the heart energy, it blocks everything else. And you do that by creating a reality of fear. COVID-19 is just an example of that. Climate change, an example of that. And it's all designed, all society is designed, but everything comes from the top. And it's to block our chakras. One of the biggest things that blocks our energies, you don't focus on chakras to awaken them. You just let go. That's it. You let go. Why can I explain this so simply? Because I've been through a spiritual awakening process for nearly 10 years. That's why someone that's done a course in it can't explain it that simply. If you ask them, they say, oh, you've got to meditate on the energy. No, you've got to let go of any problem you've got deep within you. Because this is the thing that blocks our energies from awakening. And that's what the system plays, the game of Project Fear. And get rid of the distraction. See, it's inner fears that gets us to be into books and think that we need to be educated and all this kind of stuff. It's an inner ego thing that has been programmed into us that is getting you to think this way. Let it go. And just be. You don't see animals wanting to break apart nature and study it and everything, because they don't have that kind of egos. Man has got the problem with his own egos, and and we need to get out of this and into our hearts and start being present. This is what spiritual awakening is. And get rid of all the distractions. Books, information, films, they're all just made up by someone else. Everything outward is made up by someone else. That's not your truth. The self is lost. The real self is lost because of all these things that is made up by other people. The real self, you have a unique divinity within you. It is independent of everything else. That is infinitely unique. And infinity all by itself, and unique all by itself. And exists all by itself. Like Osho once said, a life doesn't need an outside force to create it. Because you are your own infinity, your own version. And this is why we don't access it when we are distracted. Like I said earlier, Buddhists meditate all day to get rid of the distractions. So it's all about freeing the mind of this. Freeing your perceptions and your awareness in your mind of all these distractions. Books is just one of them. And that's what it really means to go within. When you're entering your heart center with no distractions, and this is what is called, this is mindfulness. This is the real mindfulness. This is what it is to be mindfulness. And I'm just going to leave it there. For latest updates, talks like this, videos, blogs, etc., please do visit my website at www.lovelightfamily.com. Thank you for watching and listening. Thank you.